Adil Group. He manages the complete legal, the operations, and the HR department of the whole massive empire of Adil. We'll start with the basics. How does Adil came across? So first of all, thank you so much for being over here.
You're welcome.
So let's dive in the little bit history of Adil.
Mhm.
Now, how did this came across? And a little bit earlier days of the group in general.
So we actually started off. My grandfather is the one who started it off. He was in the army before, and because they wouldn't give him a raise, he thought he would venture into newer markets and just try getting a better pay. That's why he ended up coming to Dubai and he started working blue collar jobs. Eventually, he gathered enough money and he opened a small grocery store. And I think since the beginning of it itself, we've been a family run business because my father was contacted when he was 18 or 19 and he was brought in to Adil Trading Co. as well. So we started in 1984 just as a normal grocery, selling A to Z items, milk, bread, etc. And we started keeping a few Indian items then on. And my grandfather started to realize how good the scope for Indian items is over here. And he needed a lot of money. So what he had to actually do is he had to contact his wife, my grandmother, and she had to pawn off her Mangal Sutra and all the jewelry so that he could get the money to expand the business. And then from then on, it was mostly my father because my grandfather was already in an old age. He retired as soon as we opened, I think, the Karama 1 store, the one near the fish market. He decided to take a back seat, and that's when my father actually expanded the business. It was because of taking risks and having an acute business knowledge. He was able to expand it to this scale.
So like from your perspective as well, as like a third generation of an entrepreneur, like what have you came across and what all things that you picked up, maybe what you have seen in the family and in the whole group in general as well?
So I was actually working since I was 13. Yeah. So my father, our ideology, our base of ideology in Adil Trading Company is that the customer is the god, all right? He's always a god. So he thought the best way to introduce me into business is by working as a cashier because you're signing out all the items. That way you get to know what the items are and you have to deal with customers on the spot. And even when I was a 13-year-old kid, some people were actually very surprised. There was a lady who literally just double parked her car and just came in and she just wanted to see it for herself that a kid's running a till.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there were ferocious customers as well. Anyways, that's how I started my journey in it. And you could mostly I wasn't delegated any tasks when I officially joined. Semi-officially joined, I would never be delegated. Okay, Rish, you take a look at purchase. All right, that's your department. I was mostly told, to figure it out, and that's what I actually that I think I might actually do that with my son because the independence I got to go and poke my nose anywhere in the company and just find out how everything works, is what really is something that I really like. That's something I really learned.
Like learning by doing it.
Yeah, learning by doing it mostly. And mostly by, you can explain things to someone, right? But you can't understand it for them.
Yeah.
So, and my father is a heavy believer in practical knowledge. So that's why he mostly just ended up sending me to, mostly ended up doing it this way.
I think because also, when you do something, you pick up knowledge around that because a lot of things cannot be explained in text. And when you pick, you do not know, your mind picks something else while doing something as well, So I think in your journey as well, let's focus since you told some 13 years of age.
Yeah.
So how did you learn, like, in a way, after doing the cashier part of it? What did you do after that?
So when I was after being a cashier, I was actually put into wholesale.
Okay.
I was a salesman, and I used to go around, approaching all the restaurants, giving them a list of products, and just getting an understanding of how it's how you onboard customers and how you actually get customers. And I gotta tell you one thing, I'm very lucky that at a very early age, I could really understand the concept of how difficult it is to actually earn money, right? So I think I remember once I was in Discovery Gardens and it was very hot, and I was walking around. I was walking around in a chain of restaurants in Discovery Gardens, and I think I ended up in one of them. Uh, the buyer was obviously very shrewd. It took me 20 to 30 days to onboard him, and in the end of the day, we just used to get around 2 to 300 dirhams a month in orders, right? But just for that business as well, I had to work so hard, right? And that's just something that it just really taught me the value for money. And also another thing it taught me is how you actually deal with gatekeepers, right? So a terminology in business is that every important person has a gatekeeper. For example, let's say a CEO, it's impossible to approach him. You have to approach the assistant, right? Who's going to be qualifying you to, give you an appointment. So you have to kind of charm the gatekeeper, right? That way you get access to the main person, right? So that's one thing I actually ended up learning. And after that, I was actually finally given purchase. So purchasing was my department. That was another job where I got to learn a lot because I used to interact with a lot of people from Al Ras, and these are traders, traders by nature and very shrewd people, very sharp. I felt like I was way out of my league, right? Because I have no experience in how to interact with someone. The way they were doing it was just so natural, and how it used to, I don't know, it really used to scare me in the beginning, but eventually I was able to grow out of it. And after purchase, I started looking at the retail division. I used to overall assist in retails, mostly make sure that the quality of our stores is good, the quality of our food products in the store is good, and general day-to-day retail operations. And then after that, I was finally given my own pet project, which is the warehouse, so I can, it's like that place is for me. It's like a, it's my own. It's something that I got to build, not from scratch, I would say, but it's something that I got to improve on vastly. Because it was done, the way the operations were carried out inside the warehouse was very, it was an ancient way of doing things, right? And obviously, I had new ideas that I wanted to implement, and Dad finally gave me the green light. He's like, okay, I'm giving you a free rein. Go ahead. Let's see what you can do. So, apparently, that's when I learned that just when you tell this is a new policy to your employees, they won't follow it, right? There's several other factors in there on how you can actually help them understand it, how you actually put a procedure in place, how you actually register that procedure in their brain, so it becomes muscle memory. It's like, how when you take a shower, you don't know what your hand's doing, but your hand's already taking care of your body with the soap and everything. So that's something that I learned just recently, maybe a few years ago. So that's how I ended up as the warehouse manager and also HR and lead.
Okay. So what's your, like, you did so many kind of work. What was like your favorite part of all of it? Like which if you have to pick one out of all of it?
Man, that's a very hard question. That's a very hard question because I actually enjoyed all of them.
Okay.
So, I think I would actually. It's gonna be so surprising to you, but I would actually pick the job of being a cashier because of how simple it is, right?
Wow.
I actually prefer the simplicity of it, right? Like, as you were telling me how you were just, thank you for introducing me in a lovely way, by the way. So how you were telling like this big machine, these guys are working.
It's an institution,
It's huge, right? And even like the most simplest things, right? They're not as simple as they appear to be because you have to think from all the different angles, right? I think just a few minutes ago, I was just finalizing an order for sugar with someone, and he was just telling me these are the so and so norms of the market, and I'm like, I understand you. I understand that this business is supposed to be done on cash, but I can't do it because we need 3 days for all the verification that needs to be done from our company, right? And he's obviously like, what the hell, you can just write a check and give it, right? But just the operating procedures and how they need to be maintained, the complexities of it. Sometimes just cashier is just the best. You just take the item, you scan it, take the money, and that's it.
Because I think at this faster scale, so many things have to go right every day to make it right.
And you got to do it all over again, right? Every day. But, the one thing that really fuels us and one thing that really keeps us going, if I'm very honest with you, it's actually, sometimes out of nowhere, a customer does reach out to us and does appreciate us. That way we feel warmer, we feel like, okay, great, we're actually contributing, and just so we can actually contribute, to the whole demographic of UAE as retail, as in a way of like providing service, is something that really helps us, come to the office, because we feel like we're actually contributing somehow.
Like, and from very young age, you always were interacting with customers, right? From cashier to salesman to warehouse. Just for more back into business part of it, how have like customers' taste or have changed over a period of time, Have you seen the way people were interacting before have changed now, in particular retail segment? Because...
Well, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, it does seem there's obviously been changes in customers' buying behavior and stuff. Obviously, with the way advertisements have been modified and everything, there's obviously been change in buying behavior. But I still think there's some there are a few things that the customers still hold on to. This is something that I don't think they want to compromise on. So no, it's a bit of a 50-50, you could say.
So, like, what are the things which people don't still like the way it was before that?
So first, main thing is, the quality should never change, right? Because when you're running a supermarket and you need something known as consistency, right? You need consistency in all the products you have, right? Because one day if I give a batch of Kashmiri chili powder, the next day it can be a completely, let's say the crop yield was different or whatever, and the taste changes. Right, these people are people of habit. The people who housewives, people with family. I think some bachelors who are in routine and stuff. They are acquired to a certain way of their things tasting, or the way that the shopping experience is done. They're a little more particular about it. So I think that's one thing about it. Majorly is the quality, and the second thing is the consistency. That's one thing. No matter how much you flash and advertise your product, in the end of the day, if it's not good, right, it's just not gonna move.
They'll not come back again.
They'll
buy one time.
Yeah, they'll buy one time. But it'll not come again. So I mean, customers' buy behavior changing. In the end of the day, we figured it out. You can get the customer. All this is to get the customer to the product, but to keep him is mostly you do it through old school ways. Obviously there's just good customer service or good quality products, and just providing customer support from back end. That's pretty much it. I don't think there's been a major change in buyer behavior. I'll be very frank with you.
This forever you have to focus on these 4 things at least to run it very well.
Yeah, just these. I think first thing, couple things is quality and consistency. These 2 things, if you have, right, you'll definitely have customers. All the other factors are obviously there, like. You have to make sure your marketing game is all the way up there now because of how everything is being marketed. And yeah, the products are pretty much still the same, Nothing apart from that. I gotta be very honest with you. I mean, yeah, I guess people buy a little more online, but nothing more than that, I would say.
Just the behavior of buying online have gone to people more.
Yeah. So, buying online, I would say I actually wanted to say something about that too. We actually figured out on our website that it's not the people who are the owners of the household who are ordering. It's apparently the house helps who are ordering. So I guess in a way, I guess I mean it's just something stunning. With e-commerce, firstly, it's a whole other ball game when it comes to e-commerce. Right. Firstly, you're dealing with customers who have a very short attention span. All right. And the level of accessibility that you have online and the level of accessibility in a brick and mortar store is completely different. Right. We also learned that basically you were able to market your products much more better in an online platform rather than having it in your store, which is
Really?
which is a strange part.
Like, what way, like, it is easy to do?
So I think it's more of when people are more likely to share it. I think that's the one major reason that our online products are actually doing better because of the convenience and how easy it is to share something. It's something that really helped us.
Now let's focus, since you are also part of it from very young age.
Hmm.
What are like a couple of mistakes that you made very earlier,
Hmm.
running, being at this institution by yourself? More of your personal experience, I would say.
Well, more of my personal experience, I would say, major mistake was, I would say I wasn't a man of commitment, and lacked consistency in everything. Commitment, consistency is one of the two major mistakes I believe I've made a lot. Commitment was majorly because even it's not just that I would not follow through on other people's commitment, but even on my own commitments. And let's say, um, I would, it can be anything. Oh, I'll sleep by 1 today, right? And I ended up sleeping like 3 or something. And what ended up happening because of me not being a man of commitment, right? I never had a true structure in my life. And one of the ways I was able to work on it better was when I started coming into the business. And that's one thing that really helped me, overcome that mistake. But these are the only, well, I would say these are the only major two mistakes I've pretty much made. I mean, there's a long list, but these two are the reason why I make the mistakes.
The consistency and the commitment part of it.
Yeah, the consistency and commitment part of it was very low.
So I think when you come to the business, now you have to commit to people.
Yeah, not just commit to people, but the thing is, business is still done on trust, right? You could say, yeah, in the end of the day, all right, you can get legal notices, you can get letters, you can try adding a lot of stuff, but in the end of the day, how business is done is through commitment and through having a good reputation. You know, that's one. I mean, come on, uh, I don't want to sound this thing. I don't want to sound very pompous, I say, I would guess, but I wouldn't say I have made significant mistakes, many major significant mistakes because I was pretty much able to keep it under control.
And also because you were like, exposed very earlier, right?
Yeah, I was.
So
I
it become part
yeah.
of you at some capacity.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, yeah, I mean, when all the other kids were pretty much just on their summer break, I was working. So, in a way, it just kind of helped me change my, uh, you know, thought process and everything, And I've always, I mean, I ended up becoming, after that 300 dirham deal, right? I've been very shrewd with money since then. Like, I was shrewd since maybe 14, right? That I would never ever, like, just waste it willy-nilly.
So what do you do except this work? Is there something else that you do?
Hobbies?
Yeah, let's go to that.
Mostly, my hobbies are mostly I indulge in spirituality.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more into spirituality, so I'm either meditating or I'm listening up to one of the sessions from either Mahatria or Sadhguru or something like that. Yeah, just pretty much that, or just um, hang out with a few friends. Nothing more than that. Hobbies are quite time consuming and time is something that I don't currently have, right?
So do you think the Sadhguru helps you in the work part as well?
Yes, Sadhguru does help you in the work part as well.
Like in what way? Maybe some tools.
So first thing is philosophies. A lot of his philosophies do apply in business. Now there's something I can't really pick up on Sadhguru, but Mahatria I can tell you tons and tons
Please,
of stuff.
please,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So Mahatria is one of I think he's the teacher. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard anyone speak like him. So he's actually where I learned commitment from.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's it's basically something to strengthen your inner subconscious. Uh, so let's say if you had the will to open a 100 crore company, right? If you wanted to open a 100 crore company, you have all the paperwork, you have everything, right? Comes to the end of it, you only made 99 crores, right? That was that 1% missing. And turns out, on how he said it, is that you believe in yourself, but your subconscious mind doesn't believe in you,
Okay.
right? And your subconscious mind does not believe in you is because whatever thing you say, right, you don't follow through on it, which is basically either, again, making a commitment to sleep at 1, you know, end up sleeping at 3, or the best thing I think I learned from him was you make a commitment to wake up, right? And you don't end up waking up, which is basically pressing the snooze button on your alarm. So I was not allowed to press the snooze button. That's one of the, that's one of the things. And another thing he said to me that completely changed my outlook of the world is if the next way to reach into your subconscious mind is if anything bad happens to you, you only get one negative sentence, right? But if anything good happens to you, you have to give it 5 sentences, right? So if you're going back, someone cuts you off on the way, you know, you're going to be quite liberal when it comes to, like, you know, cussing the person out. Like, you know, this guy did this, yada, yada, yada. Now you just get one line, right? But let's say someone gave you weight and you give 5 lines to him, like, oh my God, I can't believe he gave me weight, etc., etc. Your whole outlook of the world, right? It changes, you know? You don't feel like the victim anymore, which I used to actually kind of feel quite a lot. But, you know, after that, I just don't feel like the victim anymore. I feel like the hero of my own story just with these 2 things.
Like, you know, these things, like anyone can remember that everyday basis, right?
Yeah,
You just forget about it.
That's the thing, you know, it's simple, but it's difficult.
It's difficult.
Right? That's the weird part.
Yeah. I think also like sticking with something for a long amount of time is difficult because there's so many ways to run away from it.
Yeah. There are actually many ways to run away from it, but I mean, the world we're living in right now, man, I mean, come on, there's so many ways you can just waste time, you know? So many ways. You can just scroll through YouTube, you can go through Reddit, TikTok's legal over here, so you have TikTok, you have TikTok, you have so much of stuff to just like waste time, right? And I think, you know, slowly but surely, you lose that interest. You know, you have, for example, you know, I think why people are letting a lot of, I think why this has become a major habit, and why it was a major habit for me, I would say, is because of the choices we have in general. You know, it's just overwhelming. You can't really stick to one choice, right? It happens to me multiple times. It still does happen to me, right? Where I would just pull up a YouTube video. I'm just 5 minutes into this 10 minutes video, and I already want to watch something else. Right? So I think that's where my consistency was affected, right? It's because whenever, let's say if I take a new task, right, I'll only do it until it was fun, and then I would drop it. You know, I wouldn't really stick to it and enjoy the whole process of it. So,
but like usually things start as fun, and after a point of time, you may feel it's boring, right?
Yeah, that's why it drops. That's why it drops, because then it becomes work, right? And work is not fun. Right?
It's not fun.
That's why we're getting paid to be here. I'm getting paid to be here, right?
It's this shiny object syndrome, right? That you run after new shining thing.
And that's what actually affects the consistency. Trust me, you just, whatever you open, let's just say you open a random TikTok video, right? Just see it through, all right? And then move on to the next one. Just that little thing will slowly help you become more consistent.
And you waste so much time because you do half of the things, not completely of them, you go to next half of things. I think you waste more time doing that rather than finishing up one thing and go to next one like that.
And that's the thing. So this Mark Cuban, I saw an interview with him on YouTube. So he said he got an email from someone, and he says, look, I'm managing this, I'm managing this, I'm managing this, I'm managing this, right? I'm doing 10 different things. How do I manage it better? Mark Cuban just said, drop the 9 other things and focus on one thing. So apparently, your outcome is better if you focus on one thing and then move to the next, like that. You know, if you have 10 drawn out things. So that's one thing. That's also another thing that helped me with consistency.
I think it also feels more satisfying because, you know, once you finish it off, like, hey, I did that completely. So next time it becomes a bit more easier to be consistent with that.
You feel fulfilled. You know, you actually do feel fulfilled. And dude, I would say, you know, we're actually losing, interacting with people in general. You know, I feel like a lot of people have just lost their interest in philosophy, right? It's just something too boring, right? But seeing what the mind can do and what the mind has done is something that really just, keeps me to it, right? That's one reason. And, just self-discovery, it's just,
You're right, because you're right. As you mentioned before, like there's so many things to get distracted on. So a lot of time you're like, hey, I know there's a problem in my life. Let me ignore the problem as far as I can do that, and let me focus on something else.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to do that.
It's easier, yeah. Yeah, it's easier. You take it's like I don't know. I guess you could say it's like drinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like taking a loan, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna drink, you're gonna have fun, but then there's the loan of the next day. So same thing with this thing, with consistency. Okay, you had fun doing that task, you dropped it, great, right? You've moved on to the next task. Now you've just completely, nullified all the progress you've made over there.
Yeah.
And you're starting with something new, you're investing time, you're investing energy, all of it gets wasted.
So basically, now let's focus on like 2-3 things that you've experienced during the, 2-3 stories maybe you have while working over here, 2-3 experiences behind the scenes of it.
So stories of what exactly,
While
like in
working in
retail, while working in company?
Yeah.
Well, I got one heck of story.
Yes, please, yeah.
Right. So again, it was in my wholesale days, right, when I was dealing with customers, and there was not a customer. I would say I onboarded. Someone else had onboarded him, and he was very harsh. Very honest. The customer was very harsh, and I had to always be like a good person, try to be as sweet as possible, try handling it. And I don't know, it went on for a few months. And I think once he called me, besides my dad, right? And my dad was already in a bad mood because he had gotten a late night flight. And he was just sitting beside me, and I was doing helping dad with some of his work. And this customer calls me exactly in that moment. I pick up the phone and I start speaking to him, and he's obviously yelling at me, saying where his goods, etc., etc. Why aren't they delivered? I'm like, sir, your payment's not made. How are we gonna deliver it? He's like, if you don't deliver my goods, I'm gonna buy from somewhere else. I'm gonna charge it to you. I'm like, sir, but you can't back charges like that. We've not made a contract. My dad just turns his head. He's like, did he just say back charge? My dad never yells at customers, but he took the phone and he just let him have it, right? And I don't know. I wouldn't say it was. I mean, I would say, seeing karma, or seeing like my dad step in and just beat up the bully, was just so cool because the customer couldn't say anything, right? So that was like one of the most fantastic moments of my life. I think it's just too good, because then my dad would never yell at a customer, and I'll always get to see it this way. It was hella fun.
Yeah, because you see like hey, what's happening.
Yeah, and I was stunned, right? Because he just took my phone and he just letting the customer have it. And I'm like, what's going on here? Right?
How old were you that time?
I was 14, maybe 15. Yeah, 14, 15, yeah, 15, yeah.
So by 14, 15, you were in the wholesale part?
Yeah, so I was a cashier for around 2 years. And then 15 was when I joined 10th grade.
Okay.
And I would pretty much start wholesale from then, yeah.
Did it like, it felt like very weird in a way, because a lot of kids were doing like normal school stuff and you're like doing actual work.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it felt very weird. It felt like I was being mistreated, to be very frank with you. I'm like, how is it that other kids get money for free, right, while I have to work for mine? Right? It would make me kind of resent that decision. But now that I've actually come here, it really helped me understand. To be honest, when it comes to Indian food stuff, right? Like when it comes to our business in general, it has to be in the blood, right? Because of how intricately things work with Alada. So, you might see it as a small, you might just see a small packet of spices, right? Somewhere in the corner. But that small packet of spices has come all the way from, we actually do buy from some tribal areas as well. So this spice would come from this tribal area. It will be delivered from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, then point C to point D, and then it will be shipped to us. Then we have to we have to explain what a tribal spice is to the Dubai municipality over here. After that, it gets cleared, and then you keep it over here. You know, so
Wow. So like that's an interesting topic now. I want to know, how do you pick up, like what's the step-by-step process of bringing a new product in like a shelf or retail?
So a step-by-step process.
Like in general idea,
Yeah, I mean, in a general idea, it's I would say firstly, whenever someone approaches us with a new product, it's really, really complicated because firstly, you got to make sure the prices are in your favor, which almost there never will because there's going to be that negotiation. After that, it's going to be, arranging merchandisers, etc. Some people will, just come through halfway, right, by giving us all the documentation, completing all the procedures, etc., and then just leave it, right? Then there will be some people who actually somehow manage to start the supply, right? But within 6 months, the person just is gone, right? He's just not there anymore. The company is gone, right? Or either they've just delisted they've just stopped continuing the item, right? And just when it comes to buying as well, there's so many people throwing products at you. It becomes so hard to choose the right one, right? Because when you put an item in a supermarket, right? That item is not representing its own company as well. It's also representing the supermarket, right? And it's very difficult to explain what listing fees is to people, right? So listing fees is something that all retailers take in general. They take maybe it will be around 4,000 to 5,000 per SKU. This is what we usually charge, and it's the seller is like, why do I have to pay him money, right, to keep the goods over there? But the thing is, what people don't understand is that I'm introducing a new brand or a new product in my shelf, and one of my existing products has to move. And when the new brand is over there, it's taking up the space that is required, right? So that on its own is a cost to me. That is something that we have to explain to suppliers. They still don't get it.
Because they think it's an extra. Hey,
they just think it's
you should
like,
be happy. I'm giving you business, right?
Yeah. So the thing is that obviously there's gonna be literally every other person has. I mean, India has so many products.
Yeah.
Just so many products sitting through. We have a sample table over there which has to be cleared every week because of the influx of samples we don't even want end up over here, right?
Because everyone wants to.
Because everyone wants to sell, and that's the thing. Eventually you become so cold, right? In your personal life, when you say no all the time, right? Not interested. You end up becoming a little cold. Eventually you're warm in the beginning. You try explaining to people and stuff, but later on, the process is just, so complicated to explain, and
No, it becomes draining, right?
Yeah, it just becomes draining because people come in with all sorts of random stuff, and you have to say no to them, and they'll be like, no, try this, try that. No, you can, then there's obviously there's a persistent salesman. On top of that, buying is not really as easy as it looks. On top of that, once you buy it and the product doesn't move, returning it to the supplier is another headache, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to return it. I mean, obviously, if the product doesn't move, you return it back to the supplier. That's in the contract, right? But if it doesn't move, sometimes the suppliers just don't take it back, or sometimes, again, they're just not there, random.
They're not there.
Yeah, exactly. And then here we have a bunch of dead inventory, right? And our money all clogged up, right?
So what happens to those products? For example, a product comes to it.
I mean, then we just have to liquidate it, right? Sell it below cost and get rid of it. Because you're talking about those dead. You have to just liquidate it, because it still has money locked in it, right? So at least the most you can get out, right? So most important thing about business is understanding liquidity in general, right? So again, purchasing, you are using your liquidity, right? So you have to be very shrewd with how you end up doing it, and
that's so interesting. Can you focus what is liquidity, for general people?
Liquidity is basically your cash flow. Your cash flow, how money is coming in, how it's going out, if you don't understand the cash flow of your business, right, there's no way your business is going to sustain, right? Because in the end of the day, why are you doing business? You're doing it for money. If you don't understand how the money is coming in, how it's going to be processed, how it's going to be, when you're going to get it back. So, for example, I'll tell you something very unique on how things is done in Al Ras, right? Well, very good lesson I learned in liquidity long ago. So major people in Al Ras, they do business on credit, right? So obviously they have a lot of money locked away because they've sold goods to people and they'll pay them maybe after 90 days, 120 days. For example, there's an urgent payment that's come up. Let's say a bank payment has come up, right? That you need to make right now, but all your money is stuck. So what do? You take sugar on credit, you sell the sugar below cost, so you get the cash to pay the bank or pay the school fees for kids or whatever.
Because of the payment cycle, the money
Yeah,
is stuck,
because the payment cycle, the money is stuck. So you buy something to sell it under cost to get money, right? To get cash. That's how the norm of the UAE market is.
No one teaches that in a book.
Huh?
No? You have to learn it by doing it again.
Yeah, you have to learn by doing it. And one thing I learned about experience, right? Like it's obviously being studying from books is also difficult. You have to memorize everything. But experience being practically dragged through the mud, right? And then getting a shred of that experience, oh my God.
You can forget it.
You can't forget it, right? You can't forget it. So this is when I had actually learned this, I'd learned 15 years ago, maybe 15, no, 10 years ago, 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, I learned this.
So you can't forget it.
Yeah,
it's in your way.
Yeah, I can't. So yeah, that's one of the things that really got me interested in cash flow. And there's so many things you can actually, there's so many services out there on the way people do business. Apparently there was something known as invoice discounting, right? So you sell your goods to a person and then you get the invoice against it and you go and give the invoice to the bank and it's their responsibility to collect and they'll give you the cash for a percentage of for their own whatever. They'll reduce their percentage and then they'll give you the cash against it.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was done over here.
Yeah.
In Dubai too. And I gotta say another thing about Dubai in general, the traders over here have become, you could say they're just a step less shrewd than the Indian ones, the Indian suppliers.
Okay.
Yeah, because of how Dubai has been a trading hub for centuries. Not centuries, sorry, but for years, it's been a trading hub, right? And all the cream of the crop had ended up coming here, and then they started in Al Ras. And the way these people, the way they do business, it was something that it's so complex, right? Because they have a small warehouse, they'll have a small office, right? In that small office, they'll do sellings of maybe hundreds and millions of dirhams, right? And the techniques they use to make sure that there's always cash on hand, on how to find out a good deal and everything is something that I remember when I was in Al Ras as well, it was as if I was thrown to the wolves, basically I was like a little baby lamb who was thrown into the wolves because these people, they're brutal, because they're traders, right? That's what it is. The whole game is on 50 fills, right? Your 50 fills or 1 dirham or 2 dirhams, that's the margins people play at over there, right? So even for that, people are just willing to, be so aggressive, in the field. It's just something that, was shocking, surprising to me.
Really? On that 50 fills, what's like a usual profit margin for them? Like 1 to 2%?
For food, 1 to 2 is a very, very, I would say it's a very nice, that's a very nice word. Like 1 to 2% is still a lot of profit margin. Yeah. You really have a lot. So, everyone thinks it's like, okay, this guy has bought, let's say, Maggie for 100 rupees, right? And he's freaking selling it for 10 dirhams over here. This is his margin, right? But what people don't understand is that there's so many fixed costs, right? That by the time, the cost of goods sold gets minus and everything is done, we're left with, grains and we're happy in that grains. Right?
At least you're getting that.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? That's how it is. That's food, because everyone buys food. It's a frequently sold item, right? It's not like a machinery, or it's not like a car that someone's gonna buy once in a while. So margins are always gonna be razor thin in food, and especially if it's sugar or oil, that's when it's gonna be it's gonna be the lowest. Like that's why it's gonna be bare bottom, and that's only because it's cash commodity.
Oh, sorry. Can we talk about more about that? Like, what do you mean about that? Like,
So cash commodities are basically it's an unsaid norm, I guess. Now it is the norm in the traders market over here, where there's a list of few items. So some of the things I can think of from the top of my head are sugar, edible oil, and wheat. These three are cash items. Wheat flour. These are cash items because you can sell them anywhere. Yeah, I can take a bag of sugar and literally anyone on planet Earth would want to buy it, right? I can buy food, or literally anyone on planet Earth would want to buy it, right? Wheat flour, anyone would want to buy it, right? It's something maida, it's the fourth one, yeah. It's something that you can, it moves too fast, right? So that's how it just becomes a cash business, and the way you can actually identify someone, I think I just kind of figured it now, when the way you can identify a new trader who's just come in is he'll only sell cash items in the beginning. He'll only sell food, he'll only sell sugar, he'll only sell oil, all these cash items. That's how you kind of pick it up. Like, okay,
he's new to the market.
He's new to the market, yeah.
Because it's easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. You don't get anywhere else these things. Yeah, see, this is so interesting.
Yeah, so
no one. That's what we want to know, because this part of retail, no one knows about it. Like, very less people know about it because very less people experience it. And retail is part of everyday life.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, we've got so much. Obviously, there's so much of stuff we actually learn. Yeah. But to us, it's like that's just general knowledge. Right, and I'm telling it to you, and you having your mind blown. What's going on? Cash items.
And I know a little bit because I study economics, so there was a couple of things that was touched over there. For a lot of people, this is very brand new.
No, because I actually wanted a degree in economics.
Really?
Yeah, I don't. Hopefully, I can try and make it work one day.
What did you study?
Oh, I finished my bachelor's of business administration from Emirates Aviation University, and then I just started working. But I actually wanted a degree in economics, because I wanted to understand how the cash flow of the world works. Yeah. And I'm fascinated by that subject.
And the macroeconomics.
The macroeconomics, the microeconomics, everything about it. The demand supply. Yeah. I explained the demand supply curve to one of our customers, and he was also surprised, like, oh wow, like, how does he know so much? And it's literally the first chapter of my economics book.
It's the whole principle it works on.
So I'm surprising, people with experience with book smart. And you are book smart. I'm surprising you experience, right?
Yeah, I'm like, this is mind blowing. How did this even come across? So now we take so much of your time. Last topic we'll touch on, any one and two people that you met in your life, which you're like, that maybe awestruck you. Or maybe I really want to meet this person and met that person as well after that.
So I don't really like celebrities, to be very frank with you. I don't. I mean, it's just something that it's not that surprising, right? For me, it's people who I meet and are my heroes, or else it's someone who is either like a real life hero. Maybe someone who's a famous doctor or someone like that. That way, I'll be a little more awestruck. But I would say, the current favorite person who I can think on the top of my head, obviously, is in the top 3 list. I think first would be mom, because I can go to her with anything. Second would be my brother, because I can talk to him about anything. And third would be my father-in-law. So yeah. So there was a time when I was, I wouldn't say I was I didn't have a good mindset. I was very aggressive. Not a shred of spirituality, right? And I was very harsh in general, I guess you could say I'd lost my soft touches and stuff. And I don't know, just one conversation with him, right? He just had one conversation with me, and the whole outlook of my life changed. Right, yeah. You know, that's what actually shocked me, right? When I just spoke to him for like an hour or two, and he was able to have such an intense talk that I came out a different person from that room. You know, it was something, and you know, you can talk about anything under the sun as well. And another thing I've noticed about him, he can talk to anybody, right? And very obviously, very like, so my father, who's mostly like, you know, keeps to himself and stuff. My father-in-law, very extrovert,
Okay.
you know, and he loves giving advice. Great advice, yeah, yeah. And yeah, man, he's just someone I really started looking up to, you know, on how he does things, how he thinks and everything. It's a whole other different thinking method, you know, that I've never applied.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for going to listen to this well. Thank you.
All right.
Wow. Thank you so